Imagine a place that was once more densely populated than Tokyo, a thriving hub packed with families, schools, and towering concrete buildings, all squeezed onto a single, tiny island in the sea. Now, it's completely deserted. The wind whistles through broken windows, waves crash against cracked seawalls, and what's left is nothing but silence and ruin. This is Hashima Island, also known as Battleship Island because of its warship-like silhouette. Located off the coast of Nagasaki, it was once a powerful symbol of Japan's industrial boom, but today it's one of the most haunting abandoned places on Earth, frozen in time. From a distance, it looks like something out of a dystopian movie: concrete blocks crumbling into the sea, staircases that lead to nowhere, and entire apartment buildings left exactly as they were when people walked away. But this isn't fiction, it's real history. So what happened here? How did this island transform from a booming coal mining metropolis into a ghost town? Why did its thousands of residents leave so suddenly, overnight? And what secrets are buried in the concrete ruins that nature is slowly reclaiming? The full story of Hashima is darker, stranger, and more unforgettable than you might imagine. Hashima Island's transformation into a coal-fueled metropolis began in 1887 when the Mitsubishi Corporation purchased it. Beneath the seabed lay vast reserves of coal, critical fuel for Japan's rapid industrial revolution. Mitsubishi saw opportunity in the rocks and began mining operations that would reshape the island and Japanese history. To extract coal from beneath the ocean floor, engineers dug deep, dark tunnels extending far below sea level. It was dangerous, backbreaking work, but it turned Hashima into a gold mine of black energy. As Japan's industries boomed, so did the island's fortunes. By the 1950s, over 5,000 people lived on Hashima, on a landmass barely 16 acres wide. That made it the most densely populated place on Earth. Think about that. More cramped than Manhattan, more packed than Tokyo's busiest districts. It wasn't just a coal mine, it was a concrete hive buzzing with life. To house its growing workforce, Mitsubishi erected Japan's first large reinforced concrete apartment buildings. They were built not only for efficiency but also to withstand typhoons and the constant battering of the sea. These massive gray structures gave Hashima its battleship-like appearance and its nickname Gunkanjima, or Battleship Island. But Hashima wasn't just industrial, it was fully alive. It had schools, a hospital, stores, a barber shop, public baths, even a rooftop garden for fresh air. Families lived shoulder to shoulder. Children played on narrow rooftops and in corridors while workers disappeared underground each day to extract coal that fueled Japan's shipyards, power stations, and factories. There were no cars. Every square inch of land had a purpose. Stairwells and walkways crisscrossed the buildings like arteries, and rooftops doubled as playgrounds and meeting spots. The island became a self-contained ecosystem, a vertical city, long before the world dreamed of smart urban design. Despite the overcrowding, residents formed tight-knit communities. Festivals were held, sports were played on tiny concrete courts, and a strong sense of resilience defined daily life. People lived modestly but proudly, many grateful for a steady job in post-war Japan where stability was hard to find. But working conditions were brutal. Miners endured sweltering heat and suffocating humidity hundreds of meters below the ocean. Collapses and gas explosions were not uncommon, and though Mitsubishi provided housing, education, and medical care, the labor was punishing. The price of progress was etched in sweat and scars. Not all workers were there by choice either. During World War II, forced labor was introduced. Korean and Chinese laborers were brought in under harsh exploitative conditions, a dark chapter in the island's legacy that still stirs controversy today. Yet for decades, Hashima was seen as a symbol of Japan's rebirth. After the devastation of World War II, the island stood as proof of resilience and industrial might. It powered cities, it rebuilt industries, and it gave thousands a purpose and a paycheck. By the 19,960s, however, the island's fate began to shift. The global energy market was changing, coal was falling out of favor as petroleum emerged as a cleaner, more efficient alternative. Japan, like the rest of the world, started transitioning to oil. As demand declined, Mitsubishi scaled back operations. Maintenance was reduced, machinery slowed, cracks appeared, literally and figuratively, in buildings once thought indestructible. The bustling island began to quiet down. The very same industry that had built Hashima from rock and ocean was now threatening to bury it. And in just over a decade, what had once been a beacon of progress was on the brink of complete collapse. Life on Hashima Island was unlike anything else in Japan. Isolated by water and confined to concrete, residents adapted to a vertical, compact lifestyle. There were no private yards, no cars, and no natural landscapes, just staircases, corridors, and rooftops. Yet somehow, people carved out a sense of normalcy in this dense, industrial world. The community thrived on routine. Children attended one of the island's 2 schools, navigating narrow stairways and corridors to reach class. Classrooms buzzed with youthful energy, often set against the backdrop of gray walls and ocean winds. Education was a central focus. After all, many parents worked in the mines and wanted more for their children. Shopping was done at the island's own small stores, from groceries to household essentials. Everything needed for daily life was available within walking distance. There were public baths where people gathered to wash, relax, and share stories. One of the few places where the island's collective pulse was truly felt. Families lived in small apartments, often with multiple generations under one roof. Space was tight, but people made it work. The concrete walls echoed with the sounds of dinner being made, children laughing, radios playing the latest music from the mainland. Community bonds were strong. Neighbors helped each other, and a shared sense of purpose permeated daily life. Recreation was creative. Rooftops were converted into gardens, playgrounds, and sports areas. Kids played baseball on improvised courts while teens huddled on stairwells, trading manga and gossip. There was even a movie theater where workers and their families could briefly escape the routine through film. Despite the harshness of their surroundings, residents took pride in the island. It was clean, organized, and efficient. Workers clocked in for grueling shifts underground, but above ground they were part of something bigger, a city built on perseverance and mutual reliance. Women played vital roles in keeping the community running. They managed households, supported one another, and were the glue that held the social fabric together. Birthdays, holidays, and seasonal festivals were celebrated just like on the mainland, often with more intensity and joy due to the island's tight-knit nature. The island even had its own unwritten social rules. With so little space, respect and cooperation were essential. Arguments might happen, but they were resolved quickly. There was simply no room for long-term grudges. Kids learned responsibility early, and everyone, young and old, contributed to the smooth operation of island life. But it wasn't all smooth. The island's isolation created its own tensions. Supplies had to be shipped in. Bad weather could delay boats, meaning food shortages weren't unheard of. Space was limited, so privacy was a luxury. And the roar of the sea was constant, a reminder that the island, while man-made and mighty, was surrounded by a vast, uncontrollable force. And then there were the typhoons. When storms hit, they hit hard. Water would seep through cracks in buildings. The wind would howl like a beast against the walls, and families would huddle together, praying the concrete held strong. In those moments, nature reminded everyone that despite their engineering, they were vulnerable. Still, people made it home. They decorated their small spaces, raised children, created friendships. Generations lived and died on Hashima, rarely needing or wanting to leave. For them, the island wasn't just a workplace. It was a home filled with memories, moments, and meaning. This was life on Hashima, a place where daily rituals carried extra weight because of the island's limits. It was a confined world, but a complete one, and for decades, it worked. But even the strongest communities can't escape the tides of change. And soon, the very routines that define Hashima would be disrupted permanently. By the early 1970s, the tides had turned for Hashima Island, literally and figuratively. What was once a thriving beacon of industrial progress had become an obsolete outpost. Coal was no longer king. Japan, like much of the world, was pivoting toward petroleum. It was cheaper, cleaner, and more efficient. The nation's energy infrastructure evolved and left islands like Hashima behind. In 1974, Mitsubishi made the final call. The coal reserves were running thin, and maintaining the island had become more trouble than it was worth. So, with barely any warning, operations ceased. On April 20th, the mine was officially closed. Thousands of residents, workers, families, children were told to pack up and leave. It wasn't a slow goodbye, it was sudden. One day, the island was full of life. Echoes of children playing, alarms ringing, machines roaring underground. And the next? Silence. Lifelong residents abandoned their homes, taking only what they could carry: furniture, photographs, kitchenware. Much of it was left behind. It was as if life had been frozen in mid-sentence. Imagine walking through a hallway where slippers still sit outside apartment doors, a calendar still pinned to the wall from 1974. That's what Hashima became, a time capsule of an industrial dream abruptly abandoned. No one expected it to fall so fast. For decades, Hashima had felt untouchable, a fortress of productivity and human spirit. But when the coal ran out, so did its purpose. And because everything had been built for one function, mining, there was no fallback. The entire economy of the island crumbled with the industry. Within weeks, Hashima became a ghost island. The ferry service stopped, infrastructure deteriorated quickly under the unforgiving sea air, metal rusted, windows shattered, and nature began reclaiming every crevice. What had taken decades to build unraveled in mere months. Yet, the speed of the departure only made its legend grow. The island was untouched for years. Rumors began to swirl. Was it haunted? What happened to the people? Why was everything left behind? The sheer eeriness of an abandoned metropolis just offshore became the stuff of urban legend. Mitsubishi never demolished the buildings. The cost would be astronomical, and besides, the island was out of sight and out of mind. It wasn't long before vines crept through cracks in concrete and seagulls replaced the hum of machinery. Roofs collapsed, staircases crumbled, and shadows lengthened across empty classrooms and abandoned bunk beds. Some former residents never looked back, others mourned the sudden erasure of their past. Birthplaces, schools, playgrounds, gone in the blink of an eye. No goodbyes, no closure, just concrete left to decay. What makes Hashima's fall so haunting isn't just the visual decay. It's the silence. A place once packed with human noise and energy now speaks only through rust and echoes. The walls still stand, but the people, the purpose, the heartbeat, gone. And that's the paradox of Hashima. It was a monument to modernity, but it wasn't built to last. It thrived on a single resource, and when that resource dried up, so did its lifeblood. What remains is a ghost, not of a person, but of an era. A monument, not to progress, but to its fragility. As Japan raced ahead into the future, Hashima remained behind, a crumbling reminder that even the most powerful machines eventually stop. Even the brightest lights burn out, and even the strongest concrete crumbles when left alone for too long. Today, Hashima Island stands as one of the most haunting reminders of Japan's rapid industrialization and its abrupt consequences. Known now as Gunkanjima or Battleship Island due to its silhouette, the island is no longer hidden from the world. In fact, it's become an unexpected symbol of both abandonment and remembrance. After decades of decay, Hashima started drawing attention from explorers, photographers, and filmmakers in the early 2000s. Urban explorers were the first to sneak in, documenting the eerie remnants of life paused in 1974. Rusted bicycles, cracked blackboards, broken dolls. Each detail told a story of lives interrupted. These photos went viral online, sparking curiosity across the globe. In 2009, the Japanese government took a bold step. Hashima was partially reopened to the public. Tour boats now circle the island, and visitors can step onto designated pathways to witness the ruins. Though much of it is too dangerous to explore, safety concerns aside, the site has become a magnet for historians, ghost hunters, and curious travelers alike. Then came Hollywood. In 2012, Hashima made its big screen debut in the James Bond movie Skyfall. It served as the villain's lair, an ominous, crumbling structure rising from the sea. The world took notice. Suddenly, this forgotten place was on global maps and travel bucket lists. But Hashima's legacy isn't just about cinematic backdrops or spooky tourism. In 2015, the island was officially recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site under the banner of Sites of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution. This was a nod to its role in transforming Japan into a modern power, but it wasn't without controversy. Here's where the narrative complicates. The island's history isn't only one of progress. During World War II, forced laborers from Korea and China were brought to work in the mines under brutal conditions. This darker chapter wasn't always acknowledged in tourism materials, leading to backlash and calls for more honest representation. In response, Japan agreed to incorporate more transparent historical context into its storytelling, including signage and museum exhibits. So Hashima now stands as a layered symbol. For some, it's a triumph of engineering and industrial spirit. For others, it's a cautionary tale of exploitation, overdependence, and the costs of rapid progress. Its silent ruins don't just whisper nostalgia, they also raise difficult questions. The structures themselves are being studied by preservationists. Engineers and historians are working to understand how concrete ages in such extreme conditions. In this way, Hashima continues to educate even as it deteriorates. Ironically, the very decay it suffers is helping others learn how to preserve the past. Former residents have returned on occasion. Some have mixed feelings: grief, nostalgia, pride, and pain. They remember birthday parties and cramped kitchens, movie nights in the island's tiny theater, and the endless sound of waves. Many feel their childhoods have been locked in a place they can visit but never truly relive. And so Hashima lives on not through mining, but through memory. It's a place where history hasn't just been recorded, but physically remains. A concrete fossil jutting out of the sea, daring us to look closer, not just at what we build, but at what we leave behind. Hashima Island is more than just crumbling concrete and ghostly silence. It's a mirror held up to history, a reminder that progress, no matter how dazzling, often comes with a cost. In its prime, the island was a marvel of innovation and resilience, an industrial marvel rising defiantly from the sea. But beneath the surface, it carried weight of labor, of sacrifice, of stories both proud and painful. Its rise tells the story of a nation charging into the future with bold ambition. Its fall reminds us how fragile even our greatest accomplishments can be when built on limited resources and short-sighted goals. And its still standing skeleton today, that's the story that keeps evolving, with every researcher, every returning resident, every wide-eyed visitor stepping foot on its cracked paths. We often chase the new and forget the old, but places like Hashima force us to slow down and look back, to remember not just what was achieved, but who paid the price. The laughter of children in narrow halls, the echoes of miners beneath the sea, the resilience of families adapting to concrete confinement, none of it should be forgotten. As the ocean continues to gnaw at its edges and the buildings slowly collapse under time's pressure, Hashima becomes not just a relic, but a question. What kind of legacy do we leave behind when the machines go quiet? It's haunting, yes, but it's also powerful, because inside that silence is a story still worth telling. So if you found this journey through Hashima Island moving or eye-opening, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon. There's more history hidden, forgotten, and untold, waiting just beneath the surface.